I'm going on an adventure. So there's only one way to figure it all out. Unzip the archaeology. Make it naked.
Last time on The Naked Archaeologist.
Wow, look at that.
We were hot on the trail of a mystery. A detective story, one that starts under the sea a few thousand years before Jesus and ends with a small blue string tied to the end of the world. According to Jewish tradition, God commanded that these strings must be dyed blue, a sacred blue called techelet. The blue string was to remind the Israelites of the sea of the sky, and the sky of God's holy throne. And the commandment says the blue must come from the blood of a sea creature called the Hilazon. But over 1,000 years ago, the secret of the Hilazon was lost. And that is the heart of our mystery. Which animal is the Hilazon? We have just a few clues from ancient Hebrew texts.
Its body resembles the ocean. It has bones and cartilage. It carries a shell.
And it has legs in its head.
He shoots them out.
Very
grabs
long.
them.
Grabs his prey.
Over 1,000 years ago, war racked the Holy Land. The secret guild that made the sacred blue died out.
It was gone, faded, disappeared.
And the memory of how to make the biblical blue faded into history. The trail went cold until the 1880s, when a man who was part cowboy, part Sherlock Holmes, and all Polish rabbi, rode out of the north on a quest for the Hilazon. He was called the Redziner Rebbe. The Rebbe was a great man of science, and he developed a recipe that produced blue, the sacred tehelet, from none other than
The cuttlefish.
And that's where we left off last time. This might seem like a complicated tale, but when I met Tel Aviv rabbis Yitzchak and Shlomo Englard, I kept the question simple. Why are these strings so important?
Now, why do we put tzitzit on the corner? Because it says in Kabbalic books that a person, when he's going on the corner, when he's on the border, then he needs to be watched. He needs a reminder of the one above.
Oh, when he's at the edge.
He's at the edge.
The edge, the border, a place of mystery. The edge of a garment is the border between us, our flesh, our nakedness, and the rest of the world.
The notion that techelet, for instance, has the blue edges raises all sorts of interesting questions.
Simon Wagemakers co-founded the Canadian Textile Museum.
The center of the garment belonging to the spiritual and the edge of this touching the realm of the physical.
But the edge is the connection between you and the outside world,
Right.
spiritual. I never understood that because you actually have strings at the corners. I noticed that in Minoan, in Egyptian, in many ancient cultures, you have these strings. And the hem becomes the hem of a garment, becomes very, very important right through history.
It's everywhere in the world. I mean, the edges of garments are tremendously important.
He will look at the tzitzit. He'll remind himself there's somebody above, somebody watching you. You connect yourself to God. You look at the blue thread. You remind yourself of God.
The color blue lies near the border between visible and invisible, the end of what our eyes can see. Blue is visible just this side of ultraviolet, which is invisible.
You have to do what God commanded you to do. So that's why it's so important, the tchelet, the blue thread, to be on the talit.
It's a connection.
It's a connection.
Blue strings are a connection between earth and heaven, the soul's borderlands. And borders are often disputed. This one is, Yitzchak and Shlomo believe the sacred blue comes from a cuttlefish. Others disagree. We only know what the Hilazon is by a list of criteria. How does
The cuttlefish.
add up?
Its body resembles the ocean. It has bones and cartilage. It carries a shell.
And it has legs in its head. But there are other creatures that might fit this description.
Murex trunculus. The snail.
Baruch Sturman believes the Hilazon is not a cuttlefish. He thinks it's a snail. But there's one problem if you're trying to get blue from a snail, and it takes us back to chemistry.
You're left with a big problem, and that's that it doesn't give you the right color.
It gives you purple.
Gives you purple. About 30 years ago, the answer was found in a pretty serendipitous way by someone by the name of Otto Elsner. Because of the smell, the wonderful smell of the snail dying, he was asked to go and do his work outside, not in the laboratory. And
Nobody wanted him around.
nobody wanted the snail or Otto Elsner
Smelled
to
like
do it.
rotten
It
eggs or
smells very bad.
Archaeologists had long known that the ancients used snails to make purple. Not blue, purple. Dyers stewed thousands of snails in giant vats over several days. It stank to high heaven. But that stink turned out to be one of the most important clues for making the leap from purple to blue.
It stunk like anything.
Zvi Koren is a Tel Aviv chemist specializing in ancient colors.
I'm not joking at all.
What
Just,
would it, like skunky or rotten eggs?
like
or-
garlic, fermenting, rotting meat. Think of it. These are sea snails. These are living things, meat, fleshy meat. They're not living anymore. But you have flesh that is sitting in a pot of this size, letting it ferment, odors, gases coming off.
Disgusting.
Very disgusting.
Does the Talmud talk about the smell?
As a matter of fact, the Talmud says that if a woman marries a man who becomes a dyer after they're married, she may ask to be divorced from him because of the smell.
That's
And-
how bad the smell
Well,
was.
I mentioned that I used to do this and come home to my wife when she was pregnant, and I used to come home smelling of snails, and she used to go and throw up. That was the way we had a year of our marriage. Throughout the whole pregnancy, it was that way.
And
I'd come home, she'd throw up.
Stink.
An ancient Egyptian papyrus records that dyers stank of fish.
Okay, so
Okay, so this
Elsner,
one.
Elsner is
Elsner-
asked, he's working on this stuff.
Exactly.
He's smelly. All his co-workers say, get out
Yeah.
of here. He goes outside.
And he found an interesting fact that happened.
Oh, I can see it now.
On cloudy days, when he was doing his dye work, he got this purple. On sunny days, he got a perfect sky blue.
Cloudy days, purple.
Sunny days, blue. And he made the connection
It's
that
like
there was
penicillin here. So.
very much so. If the dye is exposed to ultraviolet light, it will become blue as opposed to purple.
The main colorant here is called dibromo indigo. And it, as the name implies, it's indigo, but with 2 bromine atoms attached to it. When it's exposed to the sunlight, the 2 bromine atoms are knocked out. The sunlight can break a bond, and the sunlight breaks the bond between the indigo molecule and the bromine.
This is an atomic process.
This is an atomic process, absolutely. As they're knocked out of the colorant, when you introduce your string or your fleece to dye, what's left behind is mostly, not completely, but mostly indigo, which gives you blue.
Blue.
That's right.
So they had to split the atom to get the tchelet.
You're very good.
Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. They knew how to split the atom
Well, before Einstein. right?
before Einstein.
So I guess in the old days, you could control the process by saying, I'm going to produce a vat of purple inside, and I'm going to produce a vat of blue outside.
Right. And they probably knew a lot more about this. This is a dye. This was the major center of the economy in the Middle East and in the Mediterranean in general. And they did this for thousands of years.
Are these guys crazy? Modern-day Don Quixote is tilting at windmills, looking for some little animal called a Hilazon so they can extract some dye out of it and get biblical blue so that they can fulfill a biblical commandment that hasn't been fulfilled in over 1,000 years? I don't think so. I actually think they're onto something. Throughout history, what we wore said a lot about who we were. And not just the clothing, the color. And it's not just the biblical blue that we forgot. Generally, we've forgotten the power of color.
Because of the invention of synthetic dyes in the 19th century, we're assaulted by all sorts of colors that previously wouldn't.
A guy like me can walk around like, look at me. So we've actually lost the sense of...
We've lost our sensitivity to color. I mean, in many societies, as a person approached you, you could tell from the color that they were wearing how old they were. You could tell by the combination of colors that they were wearing what their status was in the society. I challenge you to do that now. You can't.
You could still do it a little bit in the sense that male uniforms and army uniforms certainly tell you which branch of the forces, stuff like
right,
that.
and if a guy's wearing a red and white suit, you know he's Santa Claus and he's going to bring you good things. I mean,
right.
I mean, the most obvious things like that still apply, but generally, most people that you encounter, you can't tell anything from what they're wearing.
If you dress like this today, you can...
Who cares?
You get mocked, though.
Oh, yeah. You get more mocked. It depends, again, the context, because you'd probably be worse off if you were in small-town Ontario, being in Kensington Market. People will say, oh, right, a local.
A local. I'm a local. That's right.
They might not care about your fashion sense in Kensington Market, but as this quest has made clear, there are still some people who believe in the power of color to literally change the world. And now finally it's time to get our hands dirty. We're going to actually make blue from a snail. Joel Guberman is our guide.
This is it. This is where tchelet gets made. This is indigo, royal blue. This is royal purple. This is... I don't know. I was expecting a bigger operation, you know?
Right. Well, you know, some of the most important things come from very humble beginnings. And this dye comes from a very humble snail. The Talmud has a very brief description of the dyeing of the tchelet.
That's where you have the secret formula, right in the Talmud, 2,000-year-old Jewish text.
Right.
There it is.
That's it.
You tracked it down. Two rabbis are talking. One rabbi asked the other rabbi, how do you make this tchelet thing?
Right.
And he gives you the secret answer.
Yeah, he gives you a very cryptic formula. Maitina dam Hilazon. We bring the blood of the snail. The samanim. Samanim are chemicals. The Talmud doesn't tell us which chemical. It just says that you use some sort of chemicals. V'ramina lehu b'yoreh. You put it into a vessel. Umar tachinle, and you boil it. That's the whole description.
That's the recipe.
And that's the recipe. Right.
Bring the blood of the snail. Add some sort of chemicals. Put it in a vessel. Boil it.
From that recipe, I couldn't figure out how to make an apple pie. Never mind tchelet.
That's right.
Okay, so you're separating the snail from the...
We're separating the gland from the rest of the snail.
So you put it out in the sun and you dry them out.
Right. It actually becomes blocks, and we take those blocks and grind them down into a powder. Is the dam Hilazon. This is the blood of the snail.
The blood of the snail.
Ramina Hubiora, we put it into a vessel. The first chemical we're going to use is caustic soda. And the caustic soda will help to dissolve the dye. And we mentioned that we're going to boil it, as the Talmud says. So we're going to add in here boiling water. This next chemical we're going to use is sodium dithionite. And this actually does the dissolving.
You keep that separate from where you keep the sugar for your coffee.
The yellow part means that it's dissolved. The purple part is not dissolved. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this dye that we processed and we're going to expose it to sunlight.
So how long do we have to leave it out here?
We're going to leave it out for 10-15 minutes. That should be enough.
So in a few minutes, we'll have made biblical blue, finally Techelet. But there's someone who says we've got it all wrong. It shouldn't be blue at all. Dr. Irving Zeiderman is a Jerusalem chemist specializing in ancient textiles.
So you're saying what the Bible calls tchelet must be this color here.
The word blue as a translation for tchelet is just a modern thing invented by when the Bible was translated into English by King James, and that was in 1630 something. And there they translated tchelet blue. A few years before that, in the previous translation, he translated it hyacinth. Because tchelet is hyacinth.
You couldn't say that that's like the sky and like
this is the color of the sky. If you examine the spectrum of the sky, you see it's not blue, but it contains a certain amount of purple wavelengths, and this is a concentrated version of the sky color. This is every color. When you're talking about color, you must realize you're talking always about a range of colors.
Wait a minute. Tchelet isn't blue? The sky isn't blue?
I'm the naked archaeologist. I've got the swatches, I've got the people. I'm going to ask them whether the sky and the sea are ever purple. What color is the sky?
What color is the sky? With the snow coming down?
Well, yeah, generally, like blue. Blue.
Yeah.
Not purple.
No.
Big vote against purple. Purple. Is it ever like this? Purple?
It goes like this between like these two over here.
It can get there, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, you've seen it like that sometimes?
Yeah, one is like...
Oh, that's very interesting. That's a vote for purple. Apparently, when people say blue, it's not so clear what they mean. Hey, the guy with the bicycle, he must know what... You're outside a lot, right?
All the time.
Which one would you vote for?
I think that's a good question, because a lot of people are in the dark nowadays, if you ask me.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Montana sky. Montana sky.
Maybe I like this, bro.
You like that one?
Yes.
Yeah, this one or that one.
Storm's End, right there.
Okay.
So you don't buy this purple stuff?
No, I'm not a purple girl. No.
And obviously you're the right person to ask because you're blue. I mean, like, would you say that's sky blue, what you're wearing?
No.
No? That's not
I'm
sky
looking
blue?
more at the Caribbean sea blue, so
Caribbean?
I'm gonna see more like that one.
That one? You say that too?
Yeah.
I guess it must be like that. I gotta go to the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, come to
See, vivid blue.
That's the Caribbean colors.
That's the Caribbean
With
color?
the sea, with the sky matching.
The sea, the sky, it matches?
Oh, forget the purple. Doesn't even go there. No.
Forget the purple.
Forget the purple.
There you have it, folks. I think the jury's still out, but it looks bad for purple. But I thought they were into the Talmudic line which said it has to be the color of the sky and the sea. Now, the sea doesn't look violet.
That is a Talmudic saying, and in fact there are several versions in the Talmud. And Rabbi Meir asks in the Talmud, what is the difference between the tchelet and the other colors? What's the difference?
So, did he mention purple?
He says the sea is a similar color to the sky. And the sky is a similar color to the trees. And the trees are a similar color to lawns, to grass. In other versions, he compares it to the sun, the color of the moon. These are all different colors. He's not talking about a color. He's talking about an association of ideas. In order to be able to understand, in order to renew something which existed 2,000 years ago and disappeared from human knowledge 1,300 years ago, you have to rely on history and archaeology and in chemistry, on real things which exist, and not your interpretation of lines in the Talmud, which can be interpreted in any way, in 1,000 ways, according to what you want to prove.
Squid, snail, blue, hyacinth, violet. We've been through the archaeology, the chemistry, and the arguments. And you know what? I shouldn't be the one who decides who's right. But what I do know, it's not just a matter of cold chemistry. It's a matter of faith as well. And with that in mind, it's time to see if our strings are turning blue.
Now we have the dye that was exposed to the sun. And you see the bubbles on the top. They look, wow, they look blue. Yep. Use the area, that space.
It's all looking bluish.
Yeah. So I just want to get this going. Now, whenever we do the dyeing of the wool in the factory for tchelet, in order to make sure that we have the proper intention, we always, there's a Hebrew saying that we say.
You're going to meditate, basically. so that you have the right intention
Correct.
when you're doing this. The
Right.
intent is part of the recipe.
Correct.
You guys have the right state of mind, not just the right science.
Correct. You have to have the dyeing and the spinning of the wool must be done with the right intention for the commandment. We're going to put the wool in the dye, and this is going to be used for tzitzit. Okay, and we'll say l'shem mitzvat tzitzit, for the purpose of the commandment of tzitzit, and then we'll put this wool inside.
Perfect. An hour from now, we're going to pull it out, and it's going to be tchelet.
Right.
To think that for 1,300 years, great rabbis and Jews wanted this and didn't have the opportunity. Now we do have the opportunity. To think that I was able to have a part in that, it makes me very, very proud and humble.
Okay, I can do this?
Yeah.
I can do this?
Just be careful, don't splatter it all over yourself.
So, one sec, what? Okay, so I do it right. I just pull it out now?
Pull it out.
This is exciting. It looks like some kind of underwater sea thing. So I just squeeze it out?
Yeah.
It's like magic. It turns blue right before your eyes. I mean, it's literally running, the blue is running through my fingers. But it looks so beautiful. It's amazing actually to have it actually turn blue in your hand. It's pretty amazing. No, there it is.
Yeah, that's nice.
I love it.
That's nice.
It's beautiful.
Very special.
How old were you when you started?
About 20.
So you started dyeing when you were 20?
I started helping the whole group of people doing it.
And now you're the only one?
He's the main one.
Yeah.
He's the main one, your brother.
He devoted himself to fulfill this commandment day and night. I could say that there's sometimes that he dies when I'm turning on the other side of the pillow.
You're sleeping?
I'm sleeping and dreaming, and he's the one that's fulfilling the dream. He's making it come true.
Now, there's a statement in the Talmud that Chelet reminds us of the sea, which reminds us of the sky, which reminds us of God's holy throne. And what color is the sea? Blue. And what color is the sky? Blue. Right. But if we take a cup of the sea, what color will it be? Cup of seawater.
Clear.
Clear, right? Cup of seawater is clear. If we take a cup of sky, what color will it be? Air, it's clear, right? So really it depends on how we look at it. We can look at the sea and the sky and see endless beautiful blue and remind us of God, or we can look at it and see nothing at all. It depends on our perspective. And one of the things that the Batil Tchelet, that the strand of the Tchelet will teach us, is to remind us that if we look at the sea and the sky and we don't see the blue, we don't see God in everything that He's created, then we have that Batil Tchelet to remind us, to get us back on track, to put us in the right way, and remind us that God created the world and gave us a purpose and gave us a meaning and gave us a way to live our lives and make the world a better place to be.